This is the MMA Brief Podcast, recapping the world of mixed martial arts every single week, with your host, Brandon Johansson.
Welcome to the MMA Brief Podcast. Biggest news in MMA right now is the return of Georges St. Pierre. He has came out now on Monday on Ariel Helwani's podcast, The MMA Hour, stating that he is in fact a free agent. The UFC has countered that and said, hold on a second, you are not a free agent. You are under UFC contract. So now it all seems like it's going to carry into a lengthy, potentially legal battle over the rights of Georges St. Pierre. Will he ever fight for the UFC again? We don't know at this point. Will he go to Bellator? Will he go to ONE FC? Will he go somewhere just to make that huge payday? There were reports that he wanted $10 million to fight Conor McGregor. He denied those rumors, said that what he was asking for was very reasonable. He has a current contract with the sports apparel company Under Armour. Since he has been gone from the UFC has inked an exclusive fighter apparel contract with Reebok. So there's some conflicts there about sponsorship dollars. It's all very, very muddy, and I'm not sure if it's going to get figured out anytime soon, to be honest. Other news in the world of UFC, 15% of the staff has been laid off by the new ownership, WME-IMG, changing of the guard happening. It seems like they're going to start doing a lot less international cards. Change is on the horizon here. Not that it's particularly an important part, but I noticed that UFC rewards had been canceled. You used to be able to get rewards for having Fight Pass membership, ordering pay-per-views, whatever. And they canceled that rewards program. And there's even rumors that The Ultimate Fighter is going to be canceled after this season, which would be a crying shame because this season has been so good. You know, I don't agree that the UFC should have to crank out 2 Ultimate Fighters per year. It's really too much. It's been too saturated. But when you have a season as quality as this one right now, I can't imagine why you would cancel that. The atmosphere, all the fights, 8 straight finishes. It's been electric. It's must-see TV. Now, maybe you can go ahead and blame yourself or Fox Sports 1 or Fox for not promoting it well enough, because anybody with eyes in their head would find these episodes quite entertaining. There's stories behind it. All the fighters have a story, and the fights have produced. It's not just a story. You get emotionally invested in the fighter, and then the fight actually comes through and delivers. It's been nothing but phenomenal. It's very sad to hear it's potentially the last season of The Ultimate Fighter. Stay tuned. Chael Sonnen vs. Tito Ortiz just announced for Bellator 170. That's about it. I'm not that excited to see that matchup. You would hope that Chael wins. Who knows at this point? Tim Means vs. Cowboy Oliveira recently announced. Tim Means looked great in his last fight. He always looks great when he's ripping his combinations, the knees, the elbows, the punches, the kicks. He looked awesome. And he will be fighting Charles Cowboy Oliveira, coming off somewhat of a controversial fight with Ill Will Brooks. Missed weight, and then at the end of the fight, taunted Ill Will Brooks with a crotch chop and a chin flick. A lot of people in the MMA community are not happy with him. So I think what I'm trying to say is everyone hopes Tim Means puts on one of those Muay Thai type performances that he's known for, where he just starts ripping combinations on Cowboy. Everybody wants to see Cowboy get messed up. I think. I don't know. I'm not trying to speak for everyone. So he's moving up in weight. After the missed weight cut at 155, Charles Oliveira moving up to 170, and that's where he will be fighting Tim Means. Other welterweight bout recently announced, Johnny Hendricks, the former welterweight champion, against Neil Magny. Both men coming off a couple of disappointing defeats. It's a win or go home for either fighter, I believe. Uriah Faber versus Brad One Punch Pickett in Sacramento, in a card headlined by a Team Alpha Male fighter, Paige Van Zant. She will be fighting Michelle Watterson, the Karate Hottie, as she is known. Shaping up to be a pretty entertaining card. Lots of fighters from Team Alpha Male on the card already. Coming up November 5th, we have Rafael dos Anjos versus Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. That should be an absolute war and should really show who's in line for the 155-pound title shot. Of course, depending on who wins, Eddie Alvarez or Conor McGregor at UFC 204. November 5th, I have my eyes on between those two lightweights. World Series of Fighting recently announced they are canceling both their World Series of Fighting 34 and 35 cards to focus on their New Year's Eve show, which is going to be in New York. They've consolidated those cards with Justin Gaethje defending his lightweight title in the main event, and the fight that was supposed to be this week, John Fitch versus Jake Shields for the welterweight title, will be the co-main event. So 2 cards canceled, but World Series of Fighting 35 was set to fall on November 12th, which would have been the day of UFC 204. Of course, that incredibly stacked card in New York, the UFC's New York debut. They didn't really want to compete. They said that they wanted to let UFC have the night. Well, it wouldn't have been much of a comparison. This massive pay-per-view that the UFC has put together for us. And that's going to do it for episode 5 of the MMA Brief. Thank you for listening. Peace.